There's a lady who's sure all that glitters is gold, and she's buying a stairway to heaven. When she gets there, she knows if the stores are all closed, with a word she can get what she can. And she's buying a stairway here. There's a sign on the wall, but she wants to be sure, 'cause you know sometimes words have to mean. In a tree by the brook, there's a songbird who sings. Sometimes all of our thoughts are misgiven.
Welcome. I'm Sue McQueen. I'm one of the ministers here at Columbine Spiritual Center. I'd like to remind you to silence your phones as we begin this celebration of life. And I want to begin this service with a reading. I'm standing upon the seashore. A ship at my side spreads her white sails and starts for the blue ocean. She is the object of beauty and strength. And I stand and watch her until she is just a speck of the white cloud where the sea and the sky come to mingle with each other. Then someone at my side says, "There, she's gone." Gone where? Gone from my sight, that is all. She is just as large in mast and hull and spar as when she left my side. And she is just as able to bear her living load to her destined port. Her diminished size is in me, not in her. And just at the moment when someone at my side says, "There she goes," there are other eyes watching her coming and other voices ready to take up the glad shout, "Here she comes." And that is dying. And so we gather together this afternoon to say goodbye to the wondrous spirit who has sailed out of our lives and into another sea of life. We gather to honor and celebrate Robin Amadei. While Robin lived 64 years, years are not the measure of a life. The measure is in the growth and in the goodness that has been added because Robin was with us. Robin was enthusiastic, energetic, loving, kind, and optimistic. She lived life fully and made friends easily, all who wanted to spend more time with her these last few months. She was a peacemaker and helped many people resolve conflict. She awakened new and splendid responses in the lives of those who have gathered here today. No matter how we describe her, all of us gather here are testimony to the richness of Robin's life and the beauty of her spirit. While this is intended to be a celebration, it's natural for the human heart to grieve when deprived of a beloved one. But in the light of truth, we know that the body is simply the housing of the soul, of the loving heart. Robin used her body as an instrument of God during her earthly life, as a mediator and a woman of peace. Now she has passed through the earthly experience in laying down this body. She passes now through the gate of death, far richer than when she entered through the gate of birth, for she bears with her the rich treasures of the soul that she has gathered along the way. Every act of empathy, of generosity, and of thoughtfulness has enriched her and prepared her for this next stage of her soul's journey. So we'll spend some time honoring Robin with our memories. I met Robin several months ago when she and Bernard started attending here Columbine Spiritual Center. I remember her cheerfulness and her curiosity. She always had a lot of questions after most services. I didn't know her well, but my experience as a minister tells me that when those who knew Robin share their memories and stories, there's a greater possibility for her essence to come here into the room. It's as if her spirit joins us. With Robin's essence in the room, we'll be able to more fully grieve and celebrate her life. Because she made friends everywhere she went, we will limit the speaking in this room and ask her friends to share stories, most of her friends to share stories of her during the reception, which will follow this service. We're going to open this time sharing now to Robin's family. We'll begin with her husband of 33 years, Bernard, followed by her daughter, Liz Ann, and then her son, Alex. Bernard?
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for being here today. It is a sad day. At the same time, we are celebrating the life of Robin. I love the reading, Sue, that you gave us about the boat leaving the horizon and not seeing where it goes. I remember being in Venice with my wife a few years ago, and she had to leave early from the hotel and had to go back to Trieste. So she took a speedboat, a taxi boat. And I remember that very clearly as the boat was speeding up on that street there in Venice on the water. She waved goodbye. And to me, that goodbye, I knew I was going to see her again. But when she left 3 weeks ago, she was waving goodbye to me, to our family, to her friends, to all of us. And as we know, she's saying goodbye, but at the same time, she's in a better place. I do believe that God gave me Robin for 33 years as a gift. She was a gift to all of us, as a husband, as a mother, as a friend, as a mediator colleague, as a client to Robin. She was a peacemaker. She brought peace to everywhere she went. We had some issues at home too, don't worry about it. I kept reminding her she was in conflict resolution. Anyway, at times where we had conflict and it was not resolved. So, but we always, love, when you are married for so long, love takes over. And it was a great gift for me to live with her, to love her, to create 2 children with her, to have a great family. And we traveled a lot. She loved to travel. We also did some biking and so on. Actually, it turns out that right before she was diagnosed with the cancer at the end of January, we went to Tahiti. I went to Tahiti a long time ago when I was single, and one of my dreams was to go back to Tahiti with my wife. And we did in January. Got free tickets, flew to Tahiti. United flies to Tahiti from San Francisco. It's a great flight. And we spent about 10 days over there. It was so, so beautiful. And I did not know it was going to be our last trip. You never know when it's your last trip. That's why I think it's so important to be mindful of the current trip, the current situation, because you never know. That gift can be taken anytime God decides to take that gift away. And then so we had a good time in Tahiti, and there's a small video of her swimming among the rays. They were huge rays. And she came back from it. I'm afraid of water, so I did not go underwater. But she went with some other people. And she had a smile like this. I said, what happened? She said, see, I've seen the rays there. The rays came to caress her. And these are big rays. I mean, just like, and I will never forget that video. And she was smiling, a bit at the same time afraid, obviously, of going underwater, but to be surrounded by the rays. And she kept reminding me how the rays were caressing her all the time. At one time in Tahiti, she got sick, and she told me, you know what, overnight, in the middle of the night, because I thought of the rays, my stomach problem went away. And it was our last trip. And it was indeed a beautiful trip. So Robin was a gift. And that gift is gone. She was diagnosed with cancer right after that, at the end of January. She was with some friends, some of them are here in the room, skiing in Steamboat Springs. And then I talked to her on a Tuesday, and she said, oh, well, we're having a good time. You know, we're going to the springs. We went to the springs, all that stuff, and everything was fine. Wednesday morning, I was teaching a class, and a secretary came over and said, your wife had an accident in Steamboat. A cold, and they said, well, there was some internal bleeding. And they flew her flight for life from Steamboat to Denver, picked up Alex, went directly to the hospital, and she was diagnosed with a tumor. That tumor was there and grew and grew, and it was sad to see someone like Robin full of life. Robin was life. Life abundantly, all the time. She was enthusiasm, she was love, she was life, she was friendship. And I was blessed to have lived 33 years. Sometimes I do not even think about it. I say, hey, all couples are like that, cool. Well, that's not always the case, from what I heard. But to be surrounded by someone who cherished life and lived life abundantly, never said anything bad about anybody. In fact, I was the one who was somewhat grumpy and angry and so on. She said, calm down, you know, just look at the bright side of things. She kept me out of trouble, believe me, for 33 years, otherwise I'd probably be in jail by now. It's nice. It's nice, nice. She was, so we actually met 34 years ago in September, so a singles club. And a year later, we were married here in, actually we were married twice because of United Airlines. I don't want to go into the details of it, but we had a canceled flight. So we got married twice. So I really wanted to know if she was going to marry me or not. So the best way is to marry twice, so 3 times or 4 times. With the same person, then say, do you love me? Yes. Do you love me? Yes. Do you love me? Just let's get to it, you know, I mean, come on. So that's what we did. So the past 10 months were actually wonderful months. We were so close to her for 10 months. And I want to thank all her friends, cards, emails that were sent to her. And she had people every day who came and to take her to Zumba, to take her to lunch, Morning Glory, and 95A, all those restaurants not far from here. We live just a few minutes away from here. I just want to thank you all. Thank you all for being there for the past 10 months. Because you see, if you have lost somebody, you find yourself being lonely. And thank you. I just, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your kindness. I don't even know how to express it. So the past 10 months were really unique. We really got close to each other. We were talking about death. We talked about happiness. We talked about many things, and openly around dinner time. And then during the summer, so radiation, chemo. And then in September, October, you could tell that her health was declining. I knew her health was declining because she was not nagging. There was a nagging factor. And in fact, a year ago, for Christmas time, she gave me 10 little cards that I could use, kind of free nagging, no nagging. So, when I would do something bad, I would fly the card, I would show the card, and I was okay. She was nagging about tiny things, like for whatever reason, I always leave crumbs behind. I don't know what it is. Must be my way to find my way back in life. I just like. But she would pick up the crumbs and say, crumbs. I said, I see it, crumbs there. And I would fly that little card, nagging, no nagging. And after a while, she was not nagging anymore. There was something about the cancer. Cancer must have hit the nagging center of the brain. It went there. I need to talk to some neuroscientists to know where about the nagging center of the brain. It's this one. And boy, that center was really excited by her nagging. But then I knew that in September, October, she was not nagging anymore. I could keep my shoes on at home. She would not say anything. Things were declining and declining. And she passed away 3 weeks ago. God took that gift back. I had to return it. So many of you sent emails. What can I do for you? And often I say to people, there's one thing you can do. Is that when you go home and you meet with your family and you have dinner with your family, just be mindful of that time. Be mindful of the presence of love when people love you. Be mindful of a smile. Be mindful of a nag or no nag. Be mindful, because when people nag you, because they mean something for you. They really want you to be, perfect to a certain extent. There's extreme nagging, but we never went there. No, sit down, and next time you have dinner tonight, tomorrow, you see your family. Remember, it's a gift. And that gift is really, really, really unique. So, when Robin loves Zumba. I had never heard of Zumba, but some of you are from the Zumba class. The instructor, I think the Zumba instructor is in the room, and I want to thank her for creating an environment. Robin loved to go to Zumba. At first she would walk to YMCA and go to Zumba, and then after that she could not walk to the YMCA. And then after that she did Zumba at home. And so what we did when we buried Robin about 2 weeks ago, we were wondering what kind of clothes should we put on her. What would Robin do on Wednesday morning? Zumba. So we decided to put some Zumba, the best Zumba clothes, Zumba shoes. There was a little ray there that we also put in the coffin there because she's swimming right now with the rays. And I was looking at her body when she passed away on that Friday afternoon. It was a container. It was no longer Zumba. It was no longer Robin. It was a container, an empty shell. Made me really realize that we are soul. The body that we inherit in this lifetime is just a container. We need to keep track of it, take care of the body, of course. But it's not who we are. I've learned a lot over the past 10 months. And again, she taught me a lot over the past 33 years, like picking up my crumbs on the floor, taking good care of myself, being positive, being optimistic, not going to anger, learning to love, and to love abundantly. But she also, I've never been so close to spirit as I have been over the past few weeks. A very strong sense of soul, a very strong sense of spirit. I did not prepare this lecture. I thought that spirit could help me today. I prayed that it was going to be a good spirit, not a bad one. But again, I think spirit, I think that when you approach death and you see death of a loved one, my recommendation to you is don't go there cold. Train yourself. Get ready. Because have faith in whatever form. It's like running a marathon. Suppose I were to come to Alex and say, Alex, run. It's time to run a marathon. You have never practiced running before. Believe me, it's going to hurt 26 miles. I've done it 7 times. Robin did that once. Because you are not ready. But when you are ready, you have trained before. You have explored your spirituality, your soul. You have a better understanding of the world. You are looking at people not as objects, but as subjects. Then when it's time to run a marathon, someone knocks at your door and you say, I'm ready. It's going to hurt to run a 26.2 miles. But it's going to hurt less than if you're not ready for it. I do believe that spirit is about that. Spirit is about getting ready for the good times and the bad times, because bad times always happen, and to be able to bounce back through those bad times. Always have an anchor going back home. I was told that farmers in the Midwest a long time ago would attach a rope around their body attached to the home in case of a hurricane or tornado, so that in case they were lost, they would go back home. Spirit is that God. At the middle of the situation we are right now, losing Robin, believe me, it's a heck of a tornado. Poop is flying all over the place. And the fan is spinning faster and faster. Yet, I have a rope, a tradition, a faith that everything is fine. Wherever she is, she's fine. In fact, when she arrived, God told her, oh, you have your outfit there, your Zumba outfit. Guess what? There's a class starting 5 minutes from now. I'm sure that's exactly what happened. She came right in time for the class at around the 8 p.m. class, right? Something like that in heaven. And I also think that God brought her back because I heard that angels and devils having all sorts of conflict up there. So God needed the divine. I don't call God God, I call God the divine, the beloved. Needed some mediators. So it went around and said, who are those best mediators out there? Bang! God took Robin. And here she is mediating small conflicts between angels, small conflict between angels and devils. And I'm sure she's going to be common ground mediation in heaven there. It's going to be a new center that God will appreciate very much. I want to read that little card there. We did not do anything about that little card that is at the entrance to the sanctuary. I did not know about this poem. And it fits Robin so well. In fact, I think that she could have written it down. It says, Afterglow. I like the memory of me. To be a happy one, that's what she wanted. To be a happy memory. This is a celebration of life today. This is not a funeral. Guess what? She's mediating up there. She's doing Zumba up there. She's with us pretty much right now in the room. I like to leave an afterglow of smiles. Oh, who else? Robin did that. An afterglow of smiles, happiness, goodness, love, compassion, caring. That's what she left when life is done. I like to leave an echo whispering softly down the ways of happy times and laughing times and bright sunny days. I like the tears of those who grieve to dry before the sun, of happy memories that I leave when life is done. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming, and thank you, Dad, for such beautiful words. And I just wanted to start by sharing a story. So when I was 18 years old, I moved away for college. I moved to Massachusetts, and as soon as I got there, I was so homesick. You know, we have such a close family. Even before this time, I just felt so much separation from my family. and also the stress of the new college environment and whatnot. And at the time, I actually started restricting my eating because that was one way I could control my situation and feel safe, and developed an eating disorder. I remember it was really hard. It was really hard for me to feel like I could have a normal relationship with food again. But my mom, when I talked to it about my mom, she didn't just send me away to some eating clinic or something like that. She told me how much she believed that I would find a way to get through this, to find a healthy relationship with food. And it was that unconditional love, that belief, that was an anchor to me in finding my way back. And so for me, my mom was unconditional love. That was the thing that she gave me. So I just wanted to take a few moments actually for all of us to think about what was some way that Robin touched you in even a small or large way, and just take maybe a few seconds to just think about it quietly. Okay, so I just wanted to see if anyone wanted to share maybe a sentence of something of how Robin, what she meant to you. Maybe just for the sake of time, we'll just have maybe a few of them. But if anyone wants to share right now, or we can also talk in the reception. And if you would like to share, please raise your hand. Okay, Farheen? Yeah, you can say it from here. Maybe stand up, or actually you could come up here for a sec. Sure.
Good afternoon, everyone. Lizanne is one of my best friends. So when she told me about her mom passing, I wrote a piece for their family the next day, and this is what I wrote. I'd like to take the time to write a piece of appreciation for Dr. Bernard Amadei and Mrs. Robin Amadei. His daughter and my best friend of 14 plus years informed me yesterday, December 9th, 2019, that her mother passed away after 10 months of journey with a very rare form of brain cancer. When I moved to Boulder, Colorado in 2002, Lizanne was the first individual who made an impression on me through her work in our advanced math geometry class in high school, and with whom I wanted to be friends with, a wish that finally became reality when we coincidentally ended up in the same Calculus 3 class in CU Boulder in the Engineering Center, where she would save me a front, middle, center seat every class next to her. I studied the interaction that I had with Lizanne in the past several months and the last few days before she informed me, leading up to the news. I was not expecting her to tell me the news yesterday, which was December 10th. I thought she and I would be talking just regularly. Her mom passed away on December 6th, 2019, and she could talk 3 days later with me at 8 p.m. that night. It is an accepted concept that parents live on in spirit through their kids, and I saw in Lizanne that she demonstrated that concept in her interaction with me. I saw grace, beauty in her manners. I commend her humility, respect, calmness, strength, sense of discipline and preparedness, her perception, and the depth of the interaction that she shared with me, and the questions that she asked. I commend the values that her parents, her mother, now late, and her father instilled in her.
Thank you so much, Farheen, for your reading. And maybe at this point I'll just have us in the reception. I would love to talk with as many of you as possible and just hear your thoughts. But one thing that's really helped me in this hard time is to think about this unconditional love as something that lives on. That's my mom living on with me, and that I can develop over the course of my life. And I hope that can be true for you all too, that the ways that my mom has touched you can flourish in your life and help you to feel free and just full of life. So thank you all for being here, and I'll pass it on to Alex.
Hey everybody, I better put this up a little higher. Throughout this year, I had this shirt that I purchased. It was a Casey Musgrave shirt. She's like a country artist, and the lyrics said happy and sad at the same time. And this is a shirt my mom especially loved while I was wearing it this year, because it really summarized how we were all feeling. At the beginning, when I had first found out about what had happened to her, I was happy that she didn't pass away on the mountain. She could have had a seizure and hit a tree or something, but she felt something inside of her to seek help, and I was happy that I could still see her, that we still had time together, but I was sad about this new reality that we had to face together. This continued throughout the year, where I was happy with how close we were together as a family. We could talk about anything. We were there for each other. There was such this feeling of warmth and beauty and hope, even in such hard times. But the sadness of that fear of the unknown, going into each day, going to bed and just not knowing what the next day would bring. I was once again happy with all of you, your support throughout the year. I mean, I became even better friends with some of our family friends and new friends and old friends and past friends. I mean, it was just the compassion that all of you brought, and it made me so happy inside. It made Mom so happy. Even with the sadness of the struggles that just kept coming every day, especially towards the end. And so once the day had come where she decided it was her choice to pass, I was happy for her, that relief, I was happy that it was within her own agency and she didn't have to struggle anymore. And it was beautiful. I mean, the day itself was burned in my mind forever, but knowing that it was what she wanted, what she needed, there's happiness there. And I'm grateful it's a gift that she was able to make that choice for herself. But the sadness, once again, of she's gone. One day I didn't know that morning what the day would bring, but just like, that's it. This is the new reality, And as I've gone through the past few weeks, you never know how you're going to mourn, Some people are just, they got to curl themselves up, or other people have to do distractions. I didn't really know what to expect, but just seeing everybody in here and the times I've spent afterwards, the moment shared throughout this whole time, I'm not feeling that sadness anymore. I'm just feeling that happiness, because she's here, she's with us, she's in all of us, and our memories and our experiences. She'll be there forever. And I'm happy that I was given that gift to spend these 28 years with her, and she just meant so much to me, and my family and my friends. All of you mean so much to me. So all I feel now is happiness. So thank you everybody. Thanks.
such beautiful words from the family. I want to introduce two other people who are going to speak who are very important to the family, have been in the family's lives for many years, and they are Rabbis Nadia and Victor Groth.
The family, as I got to know them, were seekers of meaning, seekers of truth. Robin was born Jewish, and she cherished that identity. And one of the interesting things about being Jewish is that you don't have to go to the synagogue to be Jewish. There's no catechism. There's no absolute set of beliefs. The judgment at the end of the life of a Jew are the deeds that he or she engaged in. That's it. There is in the Jewish mystical tradition an explanation of why, before prayer and study and doing good deeds was the expression of being a Jew, there existed in Jerusalem the ancient temple. And the expression of that religion at that time was the sacrificial service. And there were sacrifices for all sorts of things. There was a sacrifice for sins. There was a sacrifice for peace. But one of the most interesting sacrifices that was expected of each individual to offer was to bring a sacrifice, an animal, the best of one's herd, to the temple to acknowledge God's not having completed creation. What an amazing thing to do on a regular basis. God didn't complete creation in order to leave something for us to engage in the works, to be the hands of God's effort to complete this creation. And by that effort, each individual becomes the crown of God as creator. I know that in the Islamic religion, there are 99 names of God. And in Judaism, there's 70. And when you compare the 70 to the 90, you find most of them are repetitious. One of the names of God that's most prominent in both traditions is the word peace. God is peace. And the meaning that one derives from the reality that God has many names is that each person in his or her creation on earth is an expression of at least one of those names. And peace has always been considered the highest achievement of human beings and the highest expectation that God has of us. When God wrestled with whether to create us, I think God had Robin in mind to be the peacemaker. In Hebrew, it's referred to as the Rodef Shalom, the pursuer of peace. One doesn't just wait for it to come about. one engages in the arduous effort to bring peace among people, among countries. You know, as clergy, we all too often stand at a grave. And one of the things that goes through my mind when I find myself staring into the abyss is a statement that Maury made in Tuesday with Maury, where he said, "Death ends a life, not a relationship." And each word out of your mouths was of the continuation of that relationship that is so precious. And it is evoked for everyone through the access of memory. So I will conclude with a statement that was made by my teacher, Abraham Joshua Heschel. He said, "What I look for is not how to gain a firm hold on myself or even on life, but primarily how to live a life that would deserve and evoke an eternal amen." I think we can all say regarding Robin's life, amen.
Whenever that death comes, the doing that each one of us is gifted with life in this form for a period of time in order to accomplish, in order to do, the doing is never complete. We might wish, and it's certainly the work that I try to do in my life, that whenever death comes, we can feel complete. We can know that we've lived the best way we knew how, and we've done the best we could do. And still, we seed things in this world that we don't get to finish. We plant seeds and we nurture them and we care for them, and maybe we see a little sprout, but we don't ultimately see the full fruition of whatever that is meant to offer into this world as an extension of the divine plan of the Creator. And so it's incumbent on those of us who knew Robin to continue her work, to find ways to be those peacemakers, to find ways and to practice unconditional love, to continue to bless her presence and to give energy to the relationship that her family continues to have with her and that each one of us can continue to have by living our lives and devoting a certain amount of our doing to continuing her work and her memory. There are no timely deaths, though some are more accepted than others. There are no blessed deaths, though some are more peace-giving than others. There are only unwanted deaths, uncontrolled, unreasonable, unholy deaths. Because death tears at the marrow of the living. shattering our facade of wisdom, evoking the agony of our own transience. Yet even as we peer into the heart of death and behold no answers, a courage arises within us to face the truth of our ignorance with the light of our love. Though we cannot know the reasons for death, we can face the reality of it with the best of human dignity, refusing to despair of life, even as life seems for a time to have despaired of us. So we call upon the source of life, the fountain of being, that is both our origin and our essence, both our destiny and our destination, that we might find within ourselves and among our friends the power to heal broken hearts. May neither death nor sorrow triumph over our spirits. May we continue to comfort those who mourn and give strength and consolation to those in pain. May we learn to cherish what is eternal, the fleeting now, this very moment of meeting and embrace. May we labor to bless this family and these friends with peace, that all might serve the cause of peace. May Robin's life inspire us to deeds of loving kindness. May her death remind us of the important things in life. And may her memory be a blessing to us all. And so for the next moment or two, I want to invite us all to, as we hear the music that is going to be played, to take that time to remember the important things in life and to receive the blessing that Robin is bestowing on each and every one of us.
Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these broken wings and learn to fly. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to arrive. Blackbird singing in the dead of night. Take these sunken eyes and learn to see. All your life, you were only waiting for this moment to be free. Blackbird fly. Blackbird fly into the light.
we've decided to open up to a few of you who would like to share a story about Robin, something that you loved about her, something that drove you nuts, something that, anything that can bring more of a sense of her being here in the room with us. So if there's someone that would like to share with the group, you're welcome to come up here, or we have Susan is around somewhere with a microphone. You can stand where you are. Is there anyone who wants to share? We're trying to give our caterers a little more time to get ready.
Hi everyone, I'm Jennifer. Something that Rabbi Naomi said made me think of a specific story about Robin. Last fall, I had the honor and privilege of getting to teach a course with her in Brazil. It was a mediation course for an area of Brazil where there are no mediators, and they were in need of mediation training because their courts had been ordered to start using mediation. And as it seems to do with this program, the need to travel came up kind of last minute, and Robin said, well, I'll do the course, but I can't get down to Brazil. So I went to Brazil, and she stayed here in Boulder. And so I got to know her as we were preparing for this course, and there were just 3 things that really stuck out to me that I wanted to share. One was, as we first met, we met at the coffee shop over here at the Brewing Market, and we were talking about the course, and I was explaining what I loved about mediation, and I was relatively new to it compared to her, certainly, but compared to a lot of you as well. And she stopped me, and I was kind of talking about it in a purposeful way related to the course that we were talking about. And she stopped me and she said, you know, if you really love it as much as you say you do, I believe you will make it as a mediator. And I was so struck by that because I wasn't looking for that, although I think on some level she knew that maybe I was. But that was the kind of person she was. She was not just driven by the matters of the moment, the business at hand, but she took time to listen to somebody and to understand what really motivated them and drove them, and that really made me feel so noticed as a person, and she just had a gift for doing that. Another time, as we were getting ready for the course, I was getting ready to travel. I had tried to do a stupid task that I didn't have time to do, and I wound up getting a flat tire, of course, and I was supposed to talk to Robin at my office, but I couldn't get back there, and so I was embarrassed to be talking to her from the parking lot of the Safeway where my flat tire was, and also had just realized that the AAA membership had not been renewed, so that was a bummer. And I was sort of trying to cover this up as I was talking to Robin about what we were supposed to talk about, and I mentioned a little bit about it, and she just started laughing, and she, oh, you know, isn't that just the way it goes? And she made me feel both that, you know, that whole thing about how life just doesn't always go according to plan, but also I just felt kind of loved standing there in that snowy, cold Safeway parking lot because she cared about my plight and like took a moment to really talk about it. And then, you know, the final thing is we were teaching the course, and she would do it through Zoom, and it was very slow, and we were using a translator. But her ability to listen to the participants in the course who were role-playing, and they would speak, and the translator would be translating it for her, and to really connect with people. The gift she had for just listening to somebody, it came across even through Zoom. I mean, it was like she was in the room. And she said later that she wasn't sure how it felt because, of course, she was sort of by herself, where I saw Glenn sometimes in the room in Boulder. But boy, down there in that room, because of the presence that she had, it felt like she was in the room with us, and people felt so connected to her. And, you know, Rabbi Naomi said the thing about very eloquently, which I won't do, about the seeds that you plant in your lifetime. You don't always get to see the full fruition. And just a few days ago, I got pictures of a mediation course that now the students from that class are now running themselves. They've brought in a Brazilian mediator, and the room was packed. And it was, you know, it really was an expression of the work that Robin did, because of a lot of the people that were there had been in her course and had found the connection to mediation that she was able to provide in such a passionate and lively way. And, you know, her life really will go on in so many ways. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there someone else that would like to share a story in memory of Robin?
Yes,
Great.
Halaj Jean Mikolenko. And when I think of Robin, I think she was totally engaged with life and had no hesitation in living life fully. And I'm reminded of a Buddhist practice, since this is Boulder, there's lots of Buddhists in Boulder, of what they call the four immeasurables of extending metta, loving kindness to people. She just did that naturally. And the second one is compassion. She was there for people fully. She understood their struggles and really got it. No one could be with her and not know that she knew what was going on with you. The third immeasurable is what they call joy, but sympathetic joy of embracing people's success. And in my experience, she did that just naturally. If someone had something good happen, if someone was successful, she was there rooting them on and being thankful and grateful for that. And the last is extending peace to people. And she did that through her work. She did that through her with her relatives, with everyone she knew. She was an agent of promoting peace. That was her work, and that was her being. So that's what I think of when I remember Robin. I'm grateful to have known her.
I just want to say briefly, I'm Louise, Elijah's wife, that I always knew that Robin was everything people have been saying, that she was radiance and vitality and love and enthusiasm. And probably many of you know the word enthusiasm comes from entheos. It means God within. But after her diagnosis with cancer, I also learned that she was bravery. And when Bernard and Robin came to our house for dinner after she had begun treatments, and Bernard and Halaj were off talking, and Robin was with me in the kitchen, she said that she felt that her cancer was more difficult for Bernard than it was for her. And she just had that courage and accepting and living with whatever came, whatever life brought.
My name is Jean. I have worked in India for about 30 years, primarily in the area of teaching conflict management. I have worked with Hindus and Muslims. I have worked with police officers and prisoners. I have worked with prostitutes and their pimps. And one time I asked Robin, what do I do when somebody challenges me and states the only reason I'm there is to try to convert people to Christianity? She said, don't ever disagree with them, but ask them to come forward and stand next to you as you start to teach or do your symposium, and ask them to be close to you for 15 minutes. And if at that time they hear any hint that you're trying to be an evangelist, ask them to take the microphone from you and tell me to sit down. That was not always easy, but it was good advice and served me well.
My name is Kasia, and I wish my husband and son were able to be here. For the past 4 years, we've been neighbors of the Amadei family. I just mispronounced it, I'm sorry. But I have respect for the entire family, but during the past couple of years, Robin has become probably one of the most influential people in my life. And I'm just kind of passing along the message that she, just in conversation when we were taking a walk during the time when she was already ill. She was, by the way, much faster than I was while walking. One is she's the person who gave, I'm sorry, those are happy tears, gave me the courage to face difficult times in my life, but also for everybody. Her words were that she was just so overwhelmed by the outpour of the friends and community when she was ill, and that it was her privilege to witness that, and that she wished that this was actually her opportunity to slow down and reconnect with everybody. So I guess the message is I'm passing on. If she didn't get the chance to tell everybody in person, this is how she felt about everybody.
Hello, my name is Cheryl Cohn, and I'm from Seattle. Flew in last night because, as I told Robin, it's just not something I would ever miss. I had the good fortune of knowing Robin for the last 10 years. When I say good fortune, I had no idea when my daughter moved to Denver 10 years ago, and I thought, I'm a mediator, I run a mediation program in Seattle. I thought, what if I moved to Denver? What's the mediation world like in Denver? And I called, at least 7 people. Nobody called me back except Robin. And right away, I knew this is, as we say, a mensch, someone who has such, as we heard, compassion. She said, of course I'll meet you for coffee. Of course I'll tell you all about things. And we became fast friends. I invited her to Seattle to teach a one-day coaching class. Everybody so loved her, they said, bring her back. So I invited her to do a 3-day coaching class. And she was a star. I had the honor of her staying at my house. I live on the water, and we would walk, and we would just talk. I never met anyone like Robin, who was so inclusive, so embracing, and so, as Lizanne said, so unconditional, always going the extra mile and saying, you can do it. I know you can do it. I will miss her terribly, but I'm going to take all these words that I've heard today with me, because Robin is listening and she knows we can all do it. We can all. She was a role model for all of us. We can do it. We can do it. Thank you. And thank you, Bernard and Alex and Lizanne and the whole family for taking me in. She'd always say, burn, Cheryl's coming, make room. And I would then take over the bottom of the house, and Alex would give me his room. And Lizanne, you may or may not know, I had your room. But there was never anything that was a problem for Robin. Always just so inclusive. So I thank you.
I'm Kathy, and I knew Robin for about 30 years. We met, we were both young lawyers, and at that time there weren't many young women lawyers, and so there was a group in Denver called the Women Lawyers Association, and that's where I met her. We did a lot of dancing together because we belonged to Rally Sport for years and years. And she said to me one day, well, I have this trip to Tuscany that's been scheduled, but Bernard has to teach. So what do you think about you come with me? So luckily for me, Bernard was busy and I got to take his place. And we had a wonderful time traveling together, and that was the most intense time we had ever had together. And then, I got to know her, and this idea of conflict coaching was coming up, and I said, well, I'll take your class. I think Robin had a very different view of conflict than I did. She viewed it as this kind of very interesting challenge, and that had never occurred to me. I thought conflict was something you ran away from. So that was just the beginning of spending a lot more time with her and realizing that her point of view was contagious and very different from mine. When she became ill, I was struck by how, first of all, she said, I didn't react to this the way I thought I would. I thought I'd be really angry and why me, but I said to her, I'm not at all surprised at how you've reacted. That it's a very normal reaction to me, being an outsider, knowing you the way I have. And she said, the silver lining is that you and I get to spend this time together, which never would have happened otherwise. We were both just so busy. And so we spent weekly time together, and I would bring a whole bunch of DVDs, and we watched chick flicks. And we had the best time. So for me, I found the conflict coaching notebook. I was dealing with a little challenging situation, and she had died. And I was just feeling so bereft that I couldn't talk to her about it. But I had found the notebook, and I opened the notebook and just started looking through it and started channeling her. And, that's an example of the seeds that she planted. And, I'm grateful that I learned to view conflict as as interesting. And the two big points that she would always make to me was, first, take the other person's point of view. Put yourself in their shoes. Figure out why they're behaving the way they are. Really get into them and their position. And the other was, think about what you want the result to be. And then work backwards from that.
Thank you. I think we'll stop there. And if anyone, you could just sit on the chair, thank you. If anyone has other stories, you can certainly share them during the reception. I want to close with a reading and a prayer. When I leave you, whom I love, to go along the silent way, grieve not, nor speak of me with tears, but laugh and talk of me as if I were beside you there. I'd come, could I but find a way. But tears and grief would be a barrier. So when you see my family members and all those that I loved, please do not let the thought of me be sad, for I am loving you just as I always have. You were all so important to me. There are so many things still to say to you, but remember that I did not fear. It was just leaving you that was so hard to face. We cannot see beyond. But this I know, I loved you so. 'Twas heaven here with you. And so, Robin, we bless you on your journey, on your new birth into a wondrous new world. We release your joyful, enthusiastic soul to new life, new love, new ways of doing Zumba, and we send you on your way with these words. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord lift his countenance upon you and give you peace. May the peace that surpasses all understanding be with us all and with Robin, now and forevermore. Amen. This concludes our service. The family would like to invite all of you into our fellowship hall, which is just through the lobby, for a short reception, and encourage you to share stories, continue to share stories of the beautiful soul known as Robin, to celebrate her life.